Lights, camera, action. Okay, so welcome to our fifth grade PLC video. Does everybody want to introduce themselves? Are we camera shy?
Yes.
Okay, we're camera shy,
We are.
but we're gonna. Okay,
This is Henderson. Ms. Moya.
awesome. And Miss Moya is our fifth grade ESL teacher, and Miss Henderson is equally amazing in doing the things. Okay, y'all, we're gonna get started. It is 11:30, and this PLC is timed to be about 30 minutes. So things that we should have to be successful in this PLC, we should have access to our pre-work, and we should have our students' work because that's what we're going to do. We're going to analyze our students' work today. All right, so just for viewer purposes, they are looking at the PowerPoint that you all have access to. Okay, y'all. So today's PLC is going to center on analyzing Lesson 8 FQT that students completed yesterday. So we are going to do a couple of things today. We're going to ground ourselves in the curriculum. We're going to analyze student work, determine gaps, and plan some intentional reteaches. All right, so we'll start by aligning on a high quality student work exemplar and a criteria for success, which y'all completed that in your pre-work. This is important because this is going to be our North Star of what mastery looks like. So in the packet that I gave y'all, I placed my student work exemplar. Okay, and then y'all will take out y'all's student work exemplar, and we're gonna align on some things. So, let's see, I'll start first. Why didn't make me a copy? I don't know. Okay, so in my student work exemplar, first of all, this prompt called for the students to explain how children take part in the non-festivals horse races. So on my student work exemplar, of course, I looked at the requirements in the actual work, the FQT. So I aligned my exemplar on that. I made sure that my students had that my work had a strong central idea. I also made sure that my kiddos' central idea included at least 2 reasons that they would get from the details, and it was important for me to also note that the details connected back to what was being asked. I included academic vocabulary, and that's just because I also thought about the STAR writing rubric and expression, and also ensuring that my exemplar had a closing sentence, because that's also a big piece of the STAR writing rubric, making sure we have an introduction and a conclusion. And built my conclusion is my elaboration piece. So we'll take a moment and you can read mine. Color coded it. Can I show the camera real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so sorry, hold on. Okay. And does somebody want to be our timekeeper? Yeah. Okay. We have 6 minutes to align on an exemplar, and I will scribe on the board what we align on. Okay, so if anybody wants to begin explaining their student work exemplar, and I can show it to the camera real quick.
I started thinking about 2 details, but when we
Do you have your exemplar?
Yeah.
Okay. Yay. And then I'll upload this also. Okay. Yep. Listening.
when we normed district wide, we got rid of the 2 detail thing only because it was like kind of overwhelming for kids at first. So my exemplar is based off of one detail.
Okay.
And I think we pretty much said the same thing.
Okay, so yours is one detail,
Mm-hmm.
central idea, and what else? Like if we have to like
The
name
conclusion.
it. Okay, conclusion.
What you said before.
Well, what for a conclusion?
Well, the elaboration.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
The elaboration.
The elaboration. I'm
And
sorry.
your details like
And
that.
that, yeah, and then the conclusion. Correct.
Okay. Okay, and that's Miss Henderson. And then how about you, Miss Moya?
It's the same thing.
Okay, and then if you'll put a name to it, so your exemplar.
So
also
it would
has-
be the prompt, the restating of the prompt,
Okay, you have restate the prompt.
the evidence. We'll decide.
The evidence and
The evidence from the text,
okay.
and then the elaboration and conclusion.
Elaboration.
So it's kind of the same thing.
And the conclusion. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So yep, so everybody has a central idea. Miss Moya, yours is more specific. You're saying like in the central idea, I need to see evidence of the prompt in the central idea.
Exactly, yeah. They need to
Got it.
add it.
So we'll say
Are we creating a CFS right now, or are we just talking?
we're just aligning on our like what the exemplar is.
Exemplars should
And
be.
whatnot, so that when we look at the student work, here are the things that we're looking for. We're looking for a central idea that also restates the prompt.
Yeah.
Okay, so CI restates, and I'm writing fast because we have 4 minutes. Okay, restates the prompt. And then what else are we aligning on? These are the things that we're looking for when we analyze our student work.
Evidence,
So-
relevant evidence. From the text.
Exactly.
Relevant evidence. And when we say relevant evidence, meaning what?
When you answer the prompt in your central idea,
Mhm.
your
That it has
evidence
to do
needs
with
to
the
match
central.
whatever the
Okay,
reason
so-
is that you.
Okay, I have that too. So making that connection to the central idea. Showing the relationship
Mm-hmm.
between the evidence and the central idea.
And then elaborating on that.
Central idea, and then we're looking for an elaboration.
Yeah, and then the conclusion.
Conclusion that restates your central idea.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, yes, we do have a CFS. All right, so okay, y'all, in our handout, so we aligned on what we are looking for in our student work. In our handout, and this is just based off of our student work exemplar. We basically created a CFS, which is also in like your pre-work. So we can write this down in our PLC handout. So we might add a 4th line because I only did 3. So CI, restate prompt. Yep, relevant evidence, meaning it connects back to the central idea. And then we said we need our students to elaborate on that evidence. And we need a conclusion. And Ms. Henderson said that the conclusion needs to
Restate central idea.
restate the central idea again. All right. Cool. So now we get to look at our students' work. Now that we have a North Star criteria for success. So when we pull up our student work, so we're looking at varying levels of work. So students who did meet the bar are high kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
or exceeded the bar, our on grade level kiddos, and then our students who are developing. So we should have those work samples. So we will pull that up. And at this point, we're looking at student strengths. So what are our kids doing well when they're writing these FQTs, this particular FQT, lesson 8 FQT, and then we're gonna pinpoint some breakdowns. So where are our kiddos struggling? And if y'all will also send me a screenshot and whatnot in Teams, then I'll also upload that of the kiddos' works. Okay, who wants to go first?
Are we answering something specifically? Like,
Yes,
or
so
just
what are
any-
we're analyzing our,
Saying the misconceptions that they had, or?
so we're calling out strengths. So
Okay.
name the kiddo, what level is that kiddo, and then what are the strengths? And then we'll talk about breakdowns, or if y'all wanna do strengths and breakdowns for the same kiddo, we can do it that way. I wanna call out strengths first and then breakdowns, or look per kid.
Either way is fine.
Yeah, either way is fine.
Okay, let's call out some strengths. So some trends. Let's look at it trend wise. So
I think
trends.
strengths across the board is, and I think maybe it's because of the prompt that the passage that they had, but everybody was able to identify evidence.
Okay.
Now, there wasn't a lot of stuff about kids and horses in there, so it was easier, but everybody was basically able to find something.
Okay.
Yeah, that is true.
All right. And there's a part on your handout also where it says strengths. Okay, so able to identify evidence. How about you, Miss Moya? What did you notice in girls' work?
I noticed the same thing that she noticed, and also that they knew how to, like, they understood the structure of what I was asking from them. So they understood what they had to do, if
Okay.
that makes any sense.
So like understanding,
They understood the steps that they needed to
Directions, or-
get from the information
so the components, like the elements that they needed.
to look for in the passage.
Okay. So they knew that they need to have a central idea. They
Exactly.
knew they needed to have evidence. They knew that they needed to elaborate and have a concluding statement. Okay. Okay, awesome. How about any breakdowns? Like where did we start seeing kiddos struggle?
Collaboration as always.
Elaboration.
Elaboration.
Also sentence structure in general. But
Okay.
yes, elaboration was one of the biggest things that I noticed across the board.
So, okay, when we think about like, let's take elaboration. Well, let's focus on elaboration. Why were students struggling with elaboration? Was it like they don't understand what it means to elaborate, or the process, what the process looks like for elaboration? They did. Or is it like maybe they needed a sentence starter to get them, started in that direction? Like,
Elaboration is always an issue. Like, no matter what year it is, it's always
It's
gonna be
always
like
confusing.
the heavy hitter part, because it's requiring you to basically say, why did you pick this evidence, and how does that prove your central idea? And a lot of the times, kids will just say the exact same thing they said in their central idea. So it's like, doesn't really, I don't think that there's a specific sentence stem that you can give them. It's more of like having those conferences and then pulling it out of them. Like, okay, you pick this evidence. A lot of the conversation was like, they said that the evidence they picked is that they had to be 5 to 13 because they wanted, kids that were lighter so the horses could go faster.
Exactly.
So a lot of times in their elaboration, they would say, this shows that they wanted to use kids to ride the horses. But it's like, why? Like, you already said that kids ride horses in there, but why do they want kids specifically? And I had to pull like, well, what happened if they had an adult? Like, adult would be what? Heavier. So what would happen to the horse? It would go slower. So tell me in your elaboration, why did you pick this specific evidence, and how does that help prove it? Don't say what you already said, just prove your point. And that's that's going to be a work in progress always. Like that, it's not necessarily a sentence stem that you could give them. It's more like conferencing.
Let's try to
So-
get them
Sitting down.
together.
Yeah,
So what
Yeah.
I'm
in my
hearing,
opinion.
so what I'm hearing, and which one do you wanna add on or anything before?
No, I literally went through the same thing, and I literally told them the same thing. I was like, okay, but if it was an adult, it's the same thing, which is interesting. But it's the same problem every time, because every time that we do these FQTs and every time that they're doing the short response, it always goes down to the elaboration, and they do repeat the exact same thing, or they repeat what they cited from the text. They say the exact same thing again, and it's repetitive.
So what I am hearing you all say is, again, they're understanding the structure of the essay, but they don't fully understand the purpose of some of the components. Some of the components are easier to understand. And elaboration is definitely a harder one, and that is because it requires students to think about their thinking.
Right.
It's very metacognitive. So you're absolutely right when you say that that's something that you have to, work on within a small group and provide them examples. So metacognition happens through modeling, and it actually also happens through explicitly teaching them how to think about their thinking. So those decision-making actions. So for example, if you're trying to explain how, students are going to elaborate, like sometimes you actually have to say, hey, like stop, here's me thinking about what I'm thinking, and here's me stamping the decision that I'm making out loud. And even still providing them with a structure, and sentence structure is always important because even in their head they still have to verbalize things. So it could be like, hey, I checked whatever, or I am looking for whatever, and just stamping it and naming it. Another thing with elaboration, and I also agree with what you said, Ms. Henderson, is providing kids with examples and non-examples. Here's why this idea fits, and here's why this idea doesn't fit. Hey, let's switch that out and see if, we have similar results with, said idea again. Awesome. Okay, y'all, anything else? So elaboration is a big deal.
It also happens sometimes with the conclusion that they tend to repeat the exact same thing that they just said once more. So they need to.
And then now I'll have them read me your central idea, read me your conclusion.
Mhm.
Don't you hear that you said the same exact thing?
Exactly.
So what is another way that we can rephrase whatever it is that you're saying in your central idea?
And they learn what paraphrase is.
Yeah.
So I would be like, how can you paraphrase it? Remember what we talked about paraphrasing. So try to do that with your writing right now.
Right. Okay. So y'all, for step 3, it says that we're gonna name the precise gaps. So it looks like we all pretty much agree, like, hey, kids are having a hard time when it comes to the elaboration piece. That's a conceptual misunderstanding. So we'll check that box, and it's conceptual because they have to understand the concept of elaborating. Awesome. So if we think about how we can refine our CFS to ensure that our kids meet that metric, like what are some things that we can throw out there to do to help our kids become stronger with the elaboration piece? Like if we had to refine our CFS, so far our CFS says, the kids have a strong central idea and restate the prompt. They have to have relevant evidence connecting to the central idea. We said elaboration and then conclusion. So that third point, elaboration, it might be kind of broad, so something that we probably need to break down or define even more. So what's an action that we can take, like something that we can actually do and model for the kids that they can replicate? How would we revise the CFS?
I don't think that this one should be revised because I feel like this one is more of like
unless we just add like explain your evidence. But I feel like elaboration itself, like we do FQTs in steps, like in days. So like elaboration is one piece I feel like needs its own CFS because
Okay.
it's like
Let's try it then.
Just
So
step,
what
I
would
guess.
a CFS for just elaborating look like?
definitely explaining why you chose this to support your central idea. Like why did you choose this piece of evidence to support it? What does this help you prove?
Okay, I'm gonna go and write on the board because we're brainstorming and whatnot. So, y'all, I'm a fan of circle maps. I don't know if y'all done the thinking maps before, but I don't know. I still go to this even when I brainstorm. So I have elaboration in the middle. You said definitely explain, which can still kind of be kind of broad if we have to break that down even more. Just food for thought. But right now we're throwing things out. There's no right or wrong. Like we're brainstorming. So we want our kids to be better elaborators. We said that we want to explain. I definitely want to add up here stamping our decisions. So the actions behind our decisions. What do y'all think?
What do you mean by that?
So for example, like me actually naming, hey, this shows whatever.
Why they chose it?
So if I say, so my elaboration sentence said, these details show that children are not only the writers, but also play an important and respected role in Mongolia's most famous tradition. I chose to put that exact sentence there because in naming it for the kids, your thought process. So stamping your decision-making actions. Okay, so we'll put stamping our decision-making actions. Another thing that I also, well, anybody else want to add on?
Go for it.
No.
Okay, so I was doing some research, y'all, because I love me some good research and stuff like that. But it's in this book called Making Thinking Visible, and the kids actually, and the teachers in their lesson plans, students on their work, they underline a specific detail or a specific sentence, and they write on the side of it like a small thinking annotation. And I can give more examples on that one.
Kind of like you would do on a notice and wonder.
Kind of like, but you're actually stamping thinking. So for example, if this is my essay, well, this is my FQT, right? So if I'm looking at my elaboration sentence again, on the side, I'm gonna write the word thinking because we want kids to think about their thinking. And they write a little note, and it's great because the teacher also gets to visually see what's in the kiddo's head. So thinking, and then I'm writing why I chose to include this detail. So I chose this sentence because it shows how writers are important for the tradition. Like just them stamping their thinking, them making a decision on adding this. They could have chose any other piece of evidence to explain or elaborate on, but why did you specifically choose this one? Or I was able to choose this because I was able to make a connection. So then even thinking about maybe something that they saw in another text or on the news or something that related. How y'all feeling about that? More practice on that one? elaborate more on it. I actually have a PLC on this if y'all want to see
Stay
it.
for there.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, so what else? If we're thinking about, because we're creating our own CFS for elaboration, how about sentence structure? Also, is there a certain like sentence structure that we want our kids to utilize when elaborating? And I'm only saying that because most times kids end up just like us, like as we're learning, and all people do this, intellectual theft, low key. Like we take people's ideas and their forms until we're able to create it on our own and do our own voice.
I think sentence structure wise is just to make sure you have a transition phrase.
Okay, so transition. So must have a transition. And how do we know if they elaborated correctly, like if they got it right? Because again, explain is a big.
If it has
Well,
to
it was
be.
more of explain how your evidence supports your central idea, not just like broadly explain, because like that's the whole point of elaboration.
So it has to be a connection between the evidence and the central idea. They have to be able to make that connection. Don't want to add anything else?
Major things.
I think that's fine. Yeah, that's the major thing.
Okay, so if we had to write like a little sub CFS or whatever, just thinking about our brainstorm, what's number one?
Sorry, yeah,
Elaboration. Only the first step.
Probably.
Maybe the transition, begin with the transition?
Yeah.
Okay. So number one, begin with a transition.
Probably the explain
Explain the evidence
and explain
that
how
has to
your
do with the central idea
evidence
as well.
connects to your central idea
Okay.
or
so
proves your
then
central idea.
explain connection between evidence and the central idea. So then, so maybe sentence structure wise could also work here though, y'all. If we're explaining our evidence, maybe in this elaboration sentence, we're also telling the kiddos like, hey, I should see, keywords from your evidence, and I should also see keywords from your central idea. Okay, so we can maybe add that. So, because like those pieces have to. Okay, got it. So explain evidence from your central idea. So noting that, hey, so keywords from evidence and central idea. And y'all doesn't have to be perfect. I know but anyways, we can fine tune this more even later. Okay, and then anything else? Okay, so that's good. That's it 2 steps for a little small, little sub type CFS. Okay, good. All right, y'all. So, also, just thinking about access moves for our kiddos who are like developing and whatnot. I think that we could definitely again incorporate like some type of sentencing for elaboration just on a structural level and whatnot again. And I'm not putting anybody on the spot because I myself am gonna walk away with this and go think like, oh, okay, what would be a good sentence structure for an elaboration sentence and whatnot. Noting that we definitely want, the kiddos to begin with the transition. We definitely want to see some keywords from the central idea. We definitely want to see some keywords from the evidence in this elaboration sentence alone, since this is our sub-elaboration. So yay! I'm gonna also task y'all with, maybe that can be our do now or warm up and whatnot for next week's PLC and stuff. We can come and pop out some, hey, maybe this sentence structure might work, and kind of play around with it also.
I will say that is my question, so I don't know how I would have a STEM for elaboration. I was talking to Peterson about that because, I mean, it's many different ways that it could go, and I don't know how I would be able to like give that to them and they be able to access it themselves. Like I have to have a small group with that.
Like I have
You know.
given sentence stems, but it's because I read what they have before,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, I
what's,
can see that.
which is the
And you
issue.
gotta like
'Cause you have-
conference with them first.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm like,
but it
if
always
you have an
changes
idea
depending
on
on the student.
that, I would-
So I'm
That's
definitely
the-
gonna try and work around and do like a general structure. Here's the great thing about English, y'all. There are no absolutes. There are always exceptions to everything. And again, like we want our kids to get to a place where they're able to develop their elaboration sentences on their own. But until they're able to develop their elaboration sentences on their own, it's just kind of like, okay, here, kid, use my idea and whatnot, and then we're working towards you and your idea. And I can't wait until you have like that thought bubble pop up and you're like, oh, well, what about this? Because we're going to run with it at that point. But just until type situation. So I am going to, and I understand what you're saying, Ms. Henderson. But again, y'all, not asking y'all to, you know, come up with this right here today in PLC. But again, just like we have PLC again on next Tuesday, like just bringing something, bringing something. And again, you know, all these brains together, we're gonna come up with something, y'all. Okay.
Okay.
Woo! Yep. Okay, y'all. So for step 5, plan and practice the reteach. I know we're not gonna have enough time to practice, but let's see if we can kind of take 2 minutes to plan an elaboration piece. And again, knowing that we do not have an exact sentence structure right now, I do understand that, but let's try and write some elaboration sentences, maybe a few different sentences related to the FQT preferably, but if not, like it's okay to write an elaboration sentence that like maybe you remember from another FQT that we can kind of look at structurally, like what made that elaboration sentence, and then kind of, you know, plan based off of that. Okay, y'all ready? This is funny because I planned for central idea. Like I was thinking that most of the things are gonna be
It's
central idea,
no, but it's the passage.
elaboration
No, but
is
this
the
time
passage.
it's the
It's-
passage. Because every time it's gonna be the main idea, but this specifically, the passage was very.
because I'm thinking
straightforward.
It was very
misconception, but that's the great thing about PLC. Like it's very organic, and I love that.
Yeah, it's always going to be the main idea, but in this case, with this passage, they got it quicker. They got it quicker. It was
Well, that's
easier.
great news, y'all. That's fantastic news. Okay, we'll do. It is 12:03. Let's do until 12:05. Jot down one elaboration sentence. And you can make it up if need be. But I guess your example of an elaboration sentence. This shows. 30 seconds. Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
So y'all, okay, let me let y'all go first. I low-key have an idea.
Example first.
Okay, example first. Okay, here's my sentence, y'all. My elaboration sentence, okay? Again, just playing around with it. I said, this shows the children take pride in the Natum Festival because they take their roles seriously by taking care of the horses. So then I'm thinking like, so here's my thing about it. Here's why I made the decisions that I made, or I noticed the decisions that I made after I ended up writing the sentence. Definitely included the transition, right? Definitely thought about our CFS on for our elaboration, how we wanted to have some of the central idea in there, and also some of the detail from the evidence, right? So I'm like, well, I don't want to repeat, the detail because the redundancy, like that's boring. We want to hone in on word choice is kind of where I came from. So then I thought about, hey, although I want to connect my evidence to this and I don't want to repeat my words, I'm thinking about my words carefully, I'm going to switch out some of these words with synonyms that I know of. And then that kind of led me into like cause and effect thinking. And I'll explain. So I said this shows, that was my transition. Of course, our central idea is talking about the children basically. Then my detail was how they take their role seriously. I looked at my elaboration sentence here too. How they have a well-respected role, and they take their role, they have a well-respected role. So I was like, well, why is that role well-respected? Yo, that's a tongue twister. Why was that role well respected? And then that's what made me think like cause and effect. Like, okay, it's well respected, so they take care of their horses type situation. So kind of like just playing with the box like that. We'll do more of that, y'all. We're gonna get this though. Tell me y'all's plan for reteaching elaboration sentences. Or thoughts, initial thoughts. Nothing has to be solidified.
For the reteach or saying our sentence that we made up?
Saying your elaboration sentence and how it might look in regards to a reteach or concept of reteach or brainstorming.
I said this shows that children ride the horses instead of adults because they are not as heavy, and that way the horses goes faster.
Okay.
Because it's like simple and it plays on what they were choosing in the classroom.
Okay. So same thing. Okay.
Because they were having a trouble with elaborating on that. So that's why I kind of chose what they already had.
Okay.
And how I would do the elaboration so that I can like do the reteach and be like putting myself in their mind, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Hey, let's hear this. You want to share?
It's about the same, but I was just thinking because we got another focus workshop task to do on Thursday. So when we get ready for the elaboration, I just thought that I'm gonna have them do a turn and talk first to like explain
To defend
why,
their point.
why they chose the evidence that they chose, so that way when they get ready to write it, they've already explained why they believe that supports their answer, and it'll be easier for them to write it out. Because I think sometimes they are like more of like not thinking about the why. I think that's the most important part. Like, why did you choose? How does this prove your answer? So I think
Absolutely.
talk it out first. It'll help.
Yes, and just simply adding the word word because. So maybe we should also make that a part of our elaboration piece, adding the word because when we say because, we know that it's coming with an explanation and whatnot. So we'll add that. Yay. And also, oral rehearsal is a fantastic technique. Yay. Thank y'all so much for y'all's amazing ideas and this great PLC. We said that we have another FQT coming up for us to plan around that. So we'll get together like one-on-ones and we can hash this out more. And yay, y'all. Thank y'all for preparing your exemplars and the criteria for success and bringing your student work. And just making sure that, rigor is intentionally, in our lessons to help our kiddos. I really appreciate y'all. And thank y'all for being recorded. I know y'all were like,
We
what?
do not like to
I
be
know.
recorded.
I appreciate
Not
you.
fans of recording.
I appreciate you very, very much. What? Y'all did great. Can y'all send me
The snippets of their work?
yes.
Okay.